Welcome to the Ho-Ho Show.
Rated the #1 most listened to podcast on Pluto. So join us now as we discuss news, politics, current events, and so much more. So clear the airwaves and strap in as we
defend the Constitution, because freedom matters.
Broadcasting from the Cottage Studio. Welcome to the Ho-Ho Show, and as always, I'm your host, Ho-Ho. And yes, I know that I just got done doing an episode not that long ago, but I just wanted to record this one because I have an issue with my podcast hosting platform, Spreaker. I really do. And my issue is kind of twofold, okay? It's kind of twofold, all right? And I understand that one of the issues that I have is basically it's business, okay? It is a revenue generating decision that they made in order to make them money. And I get that. And even though I do have issue with it, I can't really blame the company for doing it. I really can't. Now, first off, let me say this, okay? Spreaker is the first podcast hosting platform that I went to. And I have zero intention of going anywhere else. Okay? This isn't you do things the way I want you to do it, or I'm picking up my ball and I'm going home. No, that's not the case. That's not what I'm doing. That's not what this episode is about. Okay? Because after everything's all said and done, I like how Spreaker does business. I like how they help the content creator, okay? Because it is easy through Spreaker to get your content out there to where people are listening to podcasts. It really is, okay? Just by a sheer click of the button, you can send it to all the different places that it goes to. You know, I have my podcast, let's just say, the Ho-Ho Show. It is going to Spreaker Podcast Player, Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, Castbox, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, and GeoSaviner, however you pronounce that. I don't even know. And all that is being done at the click of a button. And for the most part, and I really don't think it matters how much money you are spending, that option is there, no matter if you are using a free plan or if you are using one of the pro plans. And there's several pro plans that they have. That apparently is a word combination, and I'm having a hard time saying pro plan. Okay. It doesn't matter. They make it easy and I love it. Okay. Another thing that Spreaker does that I absolutely love is the fact that you as the content creator own your content. It's yours. Okay. There are companies out there that you can't say that as a content creator because that hosting platform reserves the right to edit and alter your podcasts for whatever reason they see fit. To make it more marketable or whatever. You don't necessarily own your podcast. The hosting platform owns your podcast. Even though you're the content creator, you don't necessarily get credit. They're the ones making money off of it. And that's one thing too about Spreaker. You have the ability to monetize and make money off of the listens that come from your hosting platform. Because all of these places that I just listed off of where my podcast goes, I get credit for all of those listens. As it should be. That's how we generate an income by doing this. Okay? Just saying, just throwing that out there. That's how it's done. Okay? And I am mainly referring to something that they do that I don't really like. Because you would think that as a content creator, that hosts his podcast through a podcast hosting platform, that platform would want to help out the people that are spending the money and actually being hosted through them, not just sending an RSS feed to them, that they would want to help out their own content creators. But you would be wrong. Because Spreaker has, high up in the discovery aspect of their platform, a lot of podcasts and a lot of content creators that don't actually host through them. They just send an RSS feed that way. Now, I do have issues with that, but again, I understand the concept behind it and the business reason for doing that. Like I said, it is a revenue-generated decision. I get it. I get it. I really do. But the Ho-Ho Show, okay, now here's where I'm kind of going with this, all right? The Ho-Ho Show. I have cover art. I have a banner. I have a profile picker. I'm in the subcategory of news commentary. My podcast has 260 listenable episodes with 4,500 total downloads. All right. Not to toot my own horn, but that's just letting you in behind the scenes of the Ho-Ho Show. I'm not a big podcast producer, big production, big time money behind it. I'm not. I'm a little guy. I'm small fish. I understand this. Okay. But my episode, as I pointed out, is in news commentary. So you go into the Discover section, clicking on listen, going into the Discover More section, which is right here. You might be able to see the highlight flicker a little bit. The mouse doesn't come up, but the highlight thing should be flickering. You go into news, which is where this is, news commentary. It's a subcategory that I'm at. And if you scroll down a ways, I think I'm like 17 lines into it, but you will see right there the Ho-Ho Show. There it is. I am discoverable on their platform. You don't have to search for me on the platform. You can discover me by accident. Now, there's several people in here that I'm sure are, that are definitely higher up in here than what I am, that I know darn good and well, not every one of these people are content creators that has their podcast hosted by Spreaker. They are merely sending an RSS feed to Spreaker and they have their podcast hosted on some other platform. But again, that's not where my beef is. Because like I said, that's a revenue generating decision and I understand it. I might not like it, but I understand it. My issue comes somewhere else. Okay. I also have a podcast called Black Mirror Podcast. I have a cover art. I have a banner. Again, my profile has a picker. I'm in the TV review section, which has 26 listenable episodes and just over 1,000 downloads. That's roughly 43 downloads per episode. But if you go into the TV and film subcategory the TV review subcategory of TV and film, which is, mind you, where Black Mirror Podcast can be found, I'm not in here anywhere. Scrolling all the way down to the bottom, I'm not in there. And so my question was, because I used to be in there. Not that long ago, you can discover me in the TV review subcategory of TV and film, and I was, line 3. I was right in this third line right here. That's where I used to be at. And so I sent a message to Spreaker support and I was like, hey, what gives? I'm wanting to understand how your platform works. And I noticed, like I'm no longer discoverable in there. How do I get noticed? What do I need to do? What am I doing wrong? I want to be discoverable on your platform. How do I do that? And I pointed out to him how, there's content creators in there that don't have anything going on and yet they're discoverable and yet mine is not. So I really want to understand how you propagate your discoverable section on your platform. I want to know because it doesn't really make sense to me. And they told me that how discoverable your podcast is determined by how many people access your podcast. And I was like, I would think that too. Again, Black Mirror Podcast, 26 listenable episodes, over 1,000 downloads, cover art, banner, profile picture, not anywhere to be found in the subcategory of the category of where my podcast should be found. It used to be there. Now it isn't. And you click on, you scroll down a little bit and you have, this one right here. Well, that's not cover art. What the heck is this? You click on it. No profile picture, no cover art, no banner. And looky here, no episodes either. So I pointed that out to him. I'm like, look, what you said, I would think that, but your argument doesn't hold water because here this one is, line 4, discoverable on there. You can't tell me that this podcast is getting accessed more than mine. You can't tell me that. So then, I got to thinking, I'm like, maybe, just maybe that this was an active podcast not that long ago that just deleted everything and moved their podcast to somebody else. Okay. I could, all right. If that's the case, then okay, fine. I was like, wait a second. I happen to know a successful podcast that did just that, moved their stuff elsewhere. That's Matt Locke of the Matt Locke Show. So I searched out Matt Locke. And, here it is. No profile picture, no cover art, no banner for the Matt Locke Show under the category of society and culture. Now, again, successful podcast. When it was going, he was making revenue through Spreaker on his platform. He had the listener base high enough that companies contracted to pay him money for him to advertise their product on his podcast in the form of a live read. That type of sponsorship is not easy to come by. So he had a listener base. He had a fan base. He had people that listened to his stuff. A successful podcast. So I went into society and culture and I started searching. I'm like, let's scroll on down here a little bit. And there is only 5 podcasts in this entire section that doesn't have any clip art or any cover art whatsoever. And I'm not clicked on any of these 5 to see if these are completely done. No episodes, no cover art, no banner, no profile picture. I have no idea because I didn't click on any of these because who cares, But the point is, his podcast used to be here because that's how I found it. That's how I discovered the Matt Locke Show that was done by Mr. Matt Locke. So I'm like, even that, I was willing to give to them. Maybe they just recently stopped doing the podcast and then migrated it elsewhere. But that doesn't appear to be the case either, because here you go. A successful podcast, making money through ads and sponsorships. Can't discover him here, and he used to be. So I'm like, what you're telling me doesn't make any sense. You can't tell me that this podcaster who's got nothing is on the fourth line of the subcategory in the category that I'm at. You can't tell me that people click on that, because like my first thought on why I even clicked on this in the first place, because I discovered this kind of crap before I even had this issue with Spreaker. I was like, what is so good about this podcast that you can discover it by accident just for looking in the subcategory? What's so great about this podcast that they ain't even got cover art and a name that you can't even read? What's so great about this podcast? And that's whenever I was like, there's no episodes here at all. And then to have my podcast removed from being able to be discovered, not fall off, but removed from even being able to be discovered at all, I had issue with that. I really did. I'm just being honest with you. I had issue. Call me childish if you want to. I had issue with it. So again, I asked him, what gives, and I further went to ask the people. I was like, look, if I'm doing something wrong, let me know. Tell me what's going on. This wouldn't be the podcast that I would think they would want to shadow ban me on, that my content was somehow being restricted in some way. I don't know. Yes, I'm talking about a TV show. Yes, I'm talking about a Netflix original series, but I'm not doing anything different than what several other people are doing in this category. Deck the Hallmark. Several other ones in here. You got South Park stuff. You got the Wonder Year stuff. You got iCarly stuff. You've got all kinds of stuff. Horror-based stuff. Just going into the all category. Okay, you've got Marvel. You've got screenplay stuff. You've got, just all kinds of stuff. So it made no sense to me, more Marvel stuff. DC and Marvel. You got, all kinds of people doing the same thing that I'm doing, but yet there's no issues with any, with these guys being discoverable, but for some reason there is with me. Now, again, it's like, I'm not being, I don't want to come off as being childish, and like I said, I'm not taking my ball and going home. I'm staying with Spreaker. That's not where I'm going with this. But for them to have an algorithm that is supposed to be based off of how many people access and click on your show, your podcast, why is it that my podcast fell off in lieu of other people that have nothing going on, no episodes, no cover art, no banner? They're not hosting anything there, but yet I can stumble upon a podcast that doesn't even exist on the platform, but yet you can't discover mine. You got to search for it. That's ridiculous. I don't know how many other podcast hosting platforms has that issue. Maybe y'all know. So I'm waiting for a reply to see what Spreaker is going to say to me. Because Spreaker support said, hey, this is what it's based off of. And I said, I would think so, but here's the proof that demonstrates otherwise. And I specifically told them, go to TV and film. Go to TV reviews. Fourth line. Tell me what you see. You can easily see what my podcast is doing, how many listens I have, how many episodes I have. It's an active podcast. You can see that clearly. And now you explain to me how a non-existent podcast is discoverable over mine that's active and it used to be discoverable. Explain to me how that is. I'm telling you that your algorithm is broken, obviously. And you're telling me that I'm a moron because I don't understand algorithms. Who's the idiot? You know, I told her, don't dismiss me as a fool. Look it up, please, and then explain me how this is going on. See what I'm talking about? Clearly something's going on. Explain it to me, please. I would like to know. So I'll keep you guys informed on this. I'm going to have this as an ongoing thing. I'll have other, stuff in here. And I would invite you, if you are listening over on Spreaker, head on over to the YouTubes and, check out the visualization. Because a lot can be said in the visualization. It's one thing to hear what it is I'm talking about, but it's something entirely different to actually be able to see it clearly. Because I've got all the links, all the tabs lined up on there. I was throwing visual aid into every single bit of this, the argument that I've got with Spreaker. Visual aid, there you go. So guys, I do appreciate you stopping by. I do appreciate you listening. And, all of this is possible because of you. It really is. I don't want to say that I do this completely for you because I like doing this. I love doing podcasts. I really do. It's fun for me. But y'all's make it worth it, though. You really do. You make it entertaining. You keep things entertaining. And I do appreciate the participation. I appreciate y'all stopping by. It is amazing. It is fun. I love it. I enjoy it. And again, thank you. I'm not complaining for the sake of complaining. It's an aspect of, I just want to be discovered on the platform that I'm spending money to be on. These other people ain't. They're not even being hosted through them, through Spreaker. But yet I can discover nothing. But people can't discover mine. It makes no sense to me. It really doesn't. Yeah. All right. Y'all have a good one. Till next time. This has been The Ho-Ho Show. For more information, you can head to thehohoshow.com. And for the merchandise store, you can head on over to stinkpickle.com. That is stinkpickle.com. Until next time.